attempts look like. It doesn't get any louder, so that's a plus. Definitely a cooling first design. I wouldn't, oh crap, we blew the breaker. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, one moment please. And this is why you should always use a UPS that is appropriately sized for your machine. You see this forced to install graphics I don't even have GPU drivers anymore after that crash. To be clear, this is not VRLA's text issue. This is just, you should not let your computer shut down suddenly in the middle of a heavy load like that. Short circuit, more like blown circuit. After a reboot, we're still having the problem, so I guess it's time for a quick tech tip. This is a little utility called DDU that anytime you're having a GPU driver issue is the first thing you want to turn to. Yes, before you contact tech support at your system integrator or whatever the case may be. Please wait. Man, if the amount of effort it takes to get a system up and running has any impact on the end result, this thing's gonna be freaking amazing. DDU. Tech tips! Display driver uninstaller. Here we go. GPU, NVIDIA, perfect. Clean and restart, highly recommended. Let's go. I didn't do anything, but I think we're back. Why? Windows search. Why? Why not the 64 one? That's what everyone on the web wants. Hey, maybe that one, you f***ing idiots. Feels kind of like a spiritual dance at this point more than actual troubleshooting. Because this is on here fine. There was nothing wrong with how this was installed. Okay, sure. Do not, I repeat, do not let your computer suddenly lose power in the middle of a heavy load like that. Immediately the message comes up, I click it, and then it proceeds to not launch the NVIDIA control panel. I love it. It's almost like SLI is a dead technology no one cares about anymore. Okay, here we go. We're enabling it. Be clear, when I say dead, I mean for gaming. For other workloads, it can still be very useful. Crushing Cinebench, crushing Blender rendering, screen recording. Is there anything it can't do? How about go shopping on lttstore.com? Wow, it can do that too. Look at this guy, has a hood. Woo! Package power on that CPU just shy of 300 watts. GPU power in the neighborhood of 300 watts each. This is really not very consumer grade. I'm sure there's a consumer somewhere spending like 20 grand on a computer just because they can. Not that you're stuck with Zen 3. VRLA Tech offers 5 different workstation lineups. Ryzen, Ryzen Threadripper, Ryzen Threadripper Pro, and then also Intel Core and Xeon. So you can kind of pick your poison. Just depends on what you're doing. Depending on the industry, it might be better to have fewer cores that clock higher and are more cost effective, or you might actually need a ton of cores, ECC memory support, and all of that full fat workstation stuff. Sponsored or not, this is a great result for the thermals on this system. Our CPU ended up under 80 degrees, 76 to be precise, and our GPUs, the bottom one is 65 degrees with the top one, which is taking in hot air from the bottom GPU at just 75 degrees. That is very, very reasonable. And it actually didn't get any noisier thanks to the Noctua cooling fans. Pretty sick. The main reason VRLA Tech sent over a workstation was because after looking at their gaming PCs, I was kind of curious what they can do, and while $19,000 is obviously a lot of money, you can see where it went. I mean, spec it out. This hardware just is that expensive. If it's not for you, don't worry, you can check out VRLA Tech's Threadripper Pro workstations or the ones based on maybe something more reasonable like an Intel Core or regular Ryzen at the link down below. And once you're done doing that, make sure you get subscribed to Short Circuit. So who did you guys all bet on in the big Linus versus Dennis fight?
Dennis, obviously.
Dennis, obviously. All right.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So today we're going to be reviewing an iBlades smartphone case. You may wonder, why am I reviewing a case? So when did this become a fashion or cosmetics channel or any? I don't give a shit what the case looks like. This channel used to be about function over form. Why do I care about this? Well, this case is about function, and we'd love this to get into what this thing can do. This case allows you to add battery life to your phone. It also allows you to add a micro SD card slot to your phone. So it's trying to make up for the fact that most modern flagship phones suck. So for those of you who are younger in the audience, you may forget that smartphones actually gave you some element of user freedom. If you wanted more storage, they came with a micro SD card slot, so you could plug in something called a micro SD card and get more memory. This here is 1 terabyte, and it's actually pretty fast. You plug it in your phone, you get somewhere around like 80, 90 megabytes per second read and writes. It's more than enough for your photos, your videos, your music, just to be able to show it to your friends. And you could just put it in the phone, and now you've expanded your phone that came with 64 gigabytes into a terabyte without having to pay the manufacturer an additional $300 to $600 to get their memory in the phone. Even if you're willing to pay the manufacturer for their flagship device, you're usually only going to get 500 gigabytes nowadays, which means if you were used to having this much storage in your phone, now you have to pay them for their cloud storage, as well as paying them an additional amount of money for their expensive flagship with more storage, which means that if you're in an area with low service, well, I guess now you can't access your files, but they get more money. When it comes to things like the headphone jack, you used to get phones that came with a headphone jack, but the problem with that is that if the phone comes with a headphone jack, then you're not going to give Apple or Samsung or Fairphone their additional $100 to $200 for their Galaxy Buds or their Fairphone Buds or the AirPods or whatever the fuck they make nowadays that are disposable trash that after a year or two when the battery goes out, there's no batteries in the market and no way to fix them. You're not going to do that if you actually have a headphone jack in the device. And when it comes to the battery, man, you're going to be less likely to try and talk yourself into getting the shiniest new device if when your battery dies, instead of going boop and popping a new one in, you have this bullshit glued back onto the phone that a lot of people wind up breaking or destroying as they try to get to their battery. A lot of people are looking for a reason to be a consumer. They want a reason to justify buying the latest shit. And if you give them an excuse by making it harder to work on the device, that is what you get. So what this case is looking to do is they're looking to give you the ability to add battery life to your phone, as well as give you the ability to add storage back to your phone. Now, with a lot of modern phones, if you want, you can plug a USB drive in. Like, this will show up on this phone. This is a USB-C drive from Framework. This is 250 gigabytes, and they make them all the way up to a terabyte. The problem here is obvious. This is not really ergonomically proper, and if this is in my pocket and I pick it up and this bends, I'm going to break the drive or the port. This is really not aesthetically pleasing in any way, shape, or form. Who wants to walk around with a phone like this, and even if it was not going to break, and this most certainly will break if you use it like that. The other thing is, you get these type of battery cases like this one. This is a new dairy. This is kind of a piece of shit. They're massively lying, in my opinion, about the milliamp hour capacity of this particular case. But the other issue is the thickness of it. Even if you don't need the battery is there, which is this is not going to be able to fit properly into a car mount or a bike mount, or a lot of people, they only want to attach the battery to their phone when they need it. This is a case, but the battery is always in it. So this is a case over here where it not only will it add battery life, but the battery is modular to the case, and you can also add a micro SD card slot to it. And I would like to show you it all today. Now, before I get started with this, I need to mention my bias. I despise the company behind this. I do not think they are good people. I do not think they run a good business. I asked them for a tracking number since I didn't receive a tracking number, and I looked in my spam email and I did not see any tracking, anything in my spam. So I emailed them and asked for a tracking number, and they ignored me. So I emailed them again, and I get a response back asking for an order number, which I think is pretty lazy. All you have, again, I run an online e-commerce business. I have done that for 13 years. Somebody emails me and says, hey, do you have a tracking number for my order? And they emailed me from the email that they placed the order with. What I would do is I would take their name, copy and paste it, and see, oh, look, it looks like the last somebody who ordered yesterday has the same name as you. Let me respond with your tracking number. No, they ask for the order number. I give them the order number. I don't hear back for a while. So I email them again, and they say, okay, you should have gotten an automated email with this. As if the reason I was contacting you in the first place was because I didn't get your automated fucking email. It took me weeks of back and forth to actually get a tracking number from these people. But the worst part is anytime you email them, expect to be ignored for 2 to 5 days after you've given them money. It is consistent. It's not like a one-time thing. And it's something I wouldn't be so mad at if I didn't spend time running my own e-commerce business by myself, even when I was getting several hundred orders a day, to realize that it really takes a minimal amount of effort to just go into your shipping software, copy and paste the person's name, and then copy and paste in their goddamn tracking number. So I don't think that they run a good business, and I really would strongly...
I love Louis Rossman. He is so fucking blunt.
advise against giving people like this money, because they show a distaste for their customer that I think is disgusting as somebody who's had to run this type of business before. So there's going to be some salt that makes its way into this review. So I figure I should make that obvious up front so that you don't wonder why I may be exceptionally salty about this. So this is the case, and it comes with some Enviro sensor. I don't give a fuck about the environment sensor. I don't give two shits of a fuck about any of that stuff. That's probably just going to waste battery. I got this thing because I wanted the extended battery for live streaming, and I also wanted the ability to have a micro SD card slot in my phone. So this is the case. I got one for the Pixel 4a 5G. They don't make one for the Pixel 6 Pro, which is sad, but let's see how this thing works. So the first thing I was curious is, where does the micro SD card plug into? Because on the website, as with most modern product photos nowadays, the product photos are useless and don't show you what you actually want to see. So it looks like this attaches with some sort of magnetic contact over here. And so the first issue that I have with this device is that the micro SD card slot is on the battery. It is not on the case. So even though I'm not always going to want to have the battery attached to the phone, I'm always going to want to have the case attached to the phone. And this is something that wasn't made clear on the website or in any of the pictures. So I could imagine always wanting the case attached to my phone. Like, when would I not want the case in my phone? But I'm almost always going to want I may not always want an additional fat battery in there. And I most certainly can't imagine, why you would put the micro SD card slot on the battery and not on this. Because that means, let's say I have 3 of these, right? Let's say I have 1 or 2 or 3 of these batteries and one of them dies. Now, when I switch out the battery and I put a new battery on my phone, that means that I now have to take the micro SD card slot out and put it back into this. The other thing is, this attaches with magnets, and these contacts don't appear to lift a lot off of the device. They appear to be very flush, and I'm kind of concerned that, I don't know, this seems a little... Yeah, this seems janky. I can completely imagine this disconnecting on a regular basis. And yeah, again, so you're holding the phone by the battery when you do this. There's nothing that wraps around this. So you're holding the phone by the battery, which is held onto here by magnets, which is also utilizing those contacts for data transfer from a micro SD card. So like, if I do, this seems like it's going to disconnect like crazy. Again, that's just... let's see if that's a bias or not. So I'm going to put my micro SD card in here. This is from my DJI. I'm not sure if they use the same file system, but we'll see if I can actually view any of the files on here. So let's just go over here and see if it shows up. And okay, so I don't see anything yet. So let's see. Maybe you got to turn this thing on or something. Is it possible that I'm supposed to turn this?
You probably have to bridge
okay.
the
We have a switch at the
USB.
bottom.
No?
What's this? Okay, we have a switch. And is there a light or anything that comes? Okay, I see a light comes on when I turn the switch. So the case has to be switched on. Okay, now we look at my storage. I'm just going to go into my storage settings on my phone. Give me a moment. Okay, storage manager. Yeah, so it only shows one drive plugged in. It does not show that I've plugged in another drive at all. That's interesting. So right off the bat, let's just see if I got this right. So it's got these little indentations over here. We do this. Okay. Rotate it over. And I don't see shit. And it does look like it's on. Now, is there another switch I got to put on the phone or something? Okay. Okay, let's see if it comes with a manual. Maybe I should read the manual. possible I'm missing something because I have not read a manual. This piece of styrofoam. Okay, in order to access phone or iBlade through the iBlade Smart app, Pixel default setting to be changed. In order to access phone or Blade storage through the iBlade Smart app, Pixel default settings need to be changed. Now this is strange. The reason I find this strange is because I do not need to be a special person to be able to access a USB-C drive. So let me just give you that, show you that as an example. I'm just going to take this phone out of the case. Now if I plug USB-C storage in here, I really should edit this, but I have a feeling I'm going to be lazy and not edit it. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to... Sorry if that winds up being the case. Okay, so I'm going to take this and plug it in so you can see the difference. So storage, I plug in a USB-C drive. This device, USB drive. See that? So when I plug in a USB-C device, any sort of mass storage device, it just works. There's no reason to change shit in settings over it. And even if it's corrupted, it would give me the option to format it. So immediately, I'm skeptical of this piece of shit. Okay, but as I said, I'm a little salty. Okay, let's see. What do you? And there's no way in hell I'm installing an app for this. There's no excuse. This should be plug and play. So let's see. They say they want me to ensure developer options. Scroll down. Turn on USB debugging. Okay, so let's do this. Let's open the manual all the way too. So settings, build number 7 times.
God, I haven't had a screen where you do the swipe up pattern to unlock it in forever.
System. Developer options. USB debugging. Allow USB debugging. And we go to default USB configurations and select file transfer. File transfer, there we go. Okay, that's done. Now I may switch this off. And on again. The light, also the indicator light here really sucks. Like you see how the indicator light is hidden under there? Like if you're out in the sun, good luck seeing that shit. Okay, so let's see if it sees the storage now. So I go to storage, and after I go to storage, it still doesn't show me anything, which is bullshit. Okay, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt that SD card just literally died in the amount of time it took for me to take it out of my DJI and put it into here. Let's see if that's the case. Maybe that happened. So I'm going to take that and put it back in my DJI, and then I'm going to take an SD card out of this Samsung phone, because I know that I'm going to see if it works in here, and then plug it in there and see if it sees anything. So let's unplug this SD card. I'm going to plug it into this DJI camera. I don't want to reset the time. I don't have a battery plugged in here. And when I do this, that's a bike video in New York City. It's so nice to not be in New York City anymore, isn't it? Now, you may say, well, Lewis, the file system is wrong, blah, 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 blah. Even if there was an issue with the file system, there's no reason for it to not be giving me the option to format the card. But just because I know there's going to be a naysayer, I'm going to grab another SD card that I know works in this phone and see what happens. So first thing I got to do is demonstrate that on my Samsung S10e, I actually have a working SD card. 1 second, I'm just going to grab a pin so that I can push it out of here. That are Just because. Jesus. Doing it live. Mother. Their fingernails because, man, it really is the savior in moments like that. Okay, so we're going to take this other 1 terabyte micro SD card slot. And this case over here is going to get another chance, another redeeming chance. Let's see what it can do. Okay, we will turn the case on and off again. Off, on. And the last thing that I will do is I will see if installing their app does anything. All right, as you can see, it still doesn't see
It just
shit
told
on
you
the
to
phone.
restart your phone.
Yeah, it doesn't see either card.
After the last
Okay.
step in the manual right there says restart your
I will try giving
phone.
it a reboot since they suggest giving it a reboot.
Yes,
in the
Lewis,
manual.
yes.
Now again, as I mentioned, with Framework's USB storage device, there is no rebooting necessary. It is as hot swappable as it should be. And the fact that this is not hot swappable is kind of, it's lame. Because you have to keep in mind that the micro SD card portion of this is built into the battery. It's not built into the case. So if you decide to swap out this battery because this battery ran out and you want to charge another one, that means you have to reboot your phone every time you do that, which is really shitty, but one way to find out, right? So let's see. So we go to storage. I have rebooted the phone, and it still only sees internal storage. It is not showing me the rest. Am I missing some, like, really? Okay, I'll give it one more reboot. I'll give it one more reboot. Yeah, if they want me to install an app to use this, they can go suck my balls. But okay, so we did all this shit already. Developer options, like file transfer, press meh, and restart the phone. Okay, so I'm gonna give it one more restart. Oh, did you see that? When I picked the phone up off the desk, this thing actually, the magnet came loose. So I went to pick it up off the desk like this, and this happened, just naturally from my hands. Okay, let's try this again. So it says charging device connected via USB. So I'm going to click this. Use USB for file transfer is selected. Settings, storage. Okay, so not only is this not storage.
Okay, I
selected.
think I see the issue.
Settings, storage. Okay, so not only is this not storage, so I'm going to click this.
USB controlled by connected device or this device? I would say USB controlled by this device, probably. Because I think that the default on Android with the USB controlled by connected device is for when you want the computer to connect to your phone and act as a either a debugger or using your the other device as connecting to your phone storage and mounting that on your computer. So I would say USB needs to be controlled by this device.
Use USB for file transfer is selected.
Now, granted, they don't have that in instructions, and that's a god-awful approach, but that's the only assumption that I can make here.
Storage. Okay. So not only is this not only is this piece of shit not actually showing the storage, but it's also not charging at all either. Okay, maybe they sent it to me dead. It's possible that a company that's stupid enough to not be able to give me a tracking number for several weeks or respond to an email is also stupid enough to not actually give me the thing charged. So what happens if I plug it in? Let's see, maybe that'll do something. This is a Framework charger, by the way. Now the Framework charger doesn't work with some counterfeit or shitty, not counterfeit, like non-USB-C compliant stuff. So for instance, this case over here is not USB-C power delivery compliant. So it can only charge with a normal USB charger, not a USB-C charger, even though it comes with a USB-C port. However, this is cheap Chinesium garbage that costs $39 or 34 bucks. This thing cost me over $100. So if this doesn't work with this, then no, you fuck out of here. So let's see. Does this work? Nope, it's not charging. Okay. Actually, it ships with a USB-C to USB-C cable, so it has to be USB-C compliant. Let's see, what happens if I do this? Like, does this port here actually function? Let's say there's a USB-C port on this. Let's see, does it see that storage that I plugged into it?
That's
So
probably not a pass-through.
To this thing.
I can almost guarantee that's not a pass-through. It's probably just for power.
And you can see the thing's on. It's got the 3 lights over there. So my conclusion is as follows. This is a steaming piece of shit. This is as bad as I could expect to get from a company that has no customer service, no customer support, that can't be bothered to reply to an email for 3 days. This is exactly what you expect from the type of company that can't reply to an email for tracking in 3 days. This is a complete and utter pile of shit, in my opinion. And while this had a lot of hope to be a decent product, it seems to be put together like
See, this is your telltale sign, chat. If their second product photo is bullshit like this, shit product.
like shit in every possible way. Again, if you're creating some sort of USB-C storage product like this, literally like, watch. Again, you go storage. It's supposed to be really easy, really plug and play. Like you do this, you plug the storage in, 3, 2, 1, bada bing, it refreshes, you get a drop-down menu, and it sees the USB device, and that's not something that this thing just sucks. So screw this company, screw the shitty way that they treat their customers, and screw this really poorly put together design. I mean, like, again, this whole magnet shit that you have over here, like, I literally, while I was picking it up like this, I've separated it. Like, look at this. Like, again, it jiggles.
This looks very, very prototypey. The packaging looks good, but the actual product is very prototypey looking. Yeah, this this person called what I called as well. Does he have any more really good videos from this year?
Hey everybody, how's it going? So if you needed any more proof that New York City was designed by assholes, I just thought I would put this here. This is from my old neighborhood. I used to live right around Marcy Avenue and Park in Brooklyn, and they have these grates where you'll have kind of hot air come up from underground. I think it's from the subway, I'm not exactly sure. But it'll just kind of, I think it's like for ventilating the subway. And what happened in the winter, because you have a lot of homeless people in New York City, because of both mental illness and also the fact that a shitty studio apartment can cost upwards of $2,200, is you had people that would sleep on these grates so that they wouldn't freeze to death. So you started at some point to have like 2 or 3 or 4 homeless people sleeping on these at a time, and what they did is instead of like try to figure out how they can solve the root cause of the homeless problem, I talked about this in a recent video where New York City's paying $3,500 to $4,500 about a month to a, quote, charity that Cuomo had started 25 years ago. What they do is they put this stuff over it so that it's actually painful, so that now you can't lie down on this to sleep, because not only is it a metal grate, but it also sticks up in certain sections. Like you can see this one sticks up higher than some of the other sections, so that if somebody were to lie down on this, they would actually feel physical pain. And I'm confident that that would totally fix the homeless problem in New York City. All you gotta do is put these grates on top of here, so that if someone tries to sleep somewhere where they will be warm and not die, they won't be able to. So good job, New York City, at tackling the homeless problem. Great job, as always, the $70 to $90 billion budget that we have per year at work. That's it for today. As
I'm excited to show you what is by far the most advanced iPhone we have ever created.
The launch of a new iPhone is never dull, and it's hype like this that has made Apple one of the most valuable companies in the world. Its customers are fiercely loyal when it comes to computers and electronics.
Product. First to buy a brilliant. The problem.
How are you? I have an appointment at 2:30. Come with me.
Our team came to a Toronto Apple store with a MacBook computer that had a common problem. The screen had stopped working.
It's like very dim when I try to turn it on.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll jump out the back and have a look on the inside.
Sure. So there's a lot of liquid that's gotten on the inside. So I took a little picture. The little red dots here, they're normally white, and it means that they've come in contact with liquid. So for it to be basically all over the whole computer, it means that something's gone through the whole thing. So with that, we'd need to be looking at replacing quite a few components.
Are you sure could it be something else as well?
Well, regardless of what the cause of it is, if it isn't the liquid, we have to fix the liquid. So it's not like we can't do partial repairs when it's been damaged by something.
So what are my options now?
This, well, what I was going to say is basically all the components that we need to replace is going to cost more than $1,000. So
to fix it entirely will cost more than $1,000?
Yeah. So at the very least we'd need to replace is the logic board and the top case, so that we're looking at $600 plus $500, doing $1,100 with a labor of $100, and then if we need to replace the display as well, that's another $780. So
The display we may not need to replace, but we're still looking at a total of around $1,200 there.
Wow. So just to be clear, there's no cheaper alternative for this?
I mean, that cost is very close to the cost of buying a new computer. In terms of fixing it in the store, no.
Many Apple customers have shared similar experiences, and so we decided to double-check the diagnosis. On First Avenue in Manhattan, there is a small computer repair store run by Louis Rossman. He started fixing computers in college and now makes YouTube videos teaching people how to repair complex items.
Overall, Apple tries to get you to purchase a new device instead of repair your old one.
His videos often draw millions of views. We brought him the computer that the Apple Store in Toronto said was not worth fixing.
Have a seat.
So this is a MacBook Pro that the Apple Store said would cost $1,200 to fix and wasn't worth doing.
All right, let's take a look and see if that's true. See, you can see the Apple logo there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and watch, if I take a light and I put it through there, you'll actually be able to see everything on the screen. So this is my microscope light. And when I put it right through here, you can see that there's a cursor there and that it's moving. So most of the screen is working properly.
I'll post an update as soon as we have it.
This could be either due to a bad screen, a bad motherboard, bad cable. We'll figure that out once we open it up.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out the best path on that.
All right, so let's take a look on the inside of this. Now, this is where the screen is going to connect to the computer.
Okay.
So the first thing I'd want to do is examine that area of it to see what it looks like. See the pin that's sticking out?
Okay.
So that pin is actually most likely the pin for the backlight. And as you can see, it's probably not making contact because it's bent outwards. And I got my set of tweezers over here, and I'm just going to try to push that back into the slot and try to get it back into its groove so that when I re-plug in the connector, it'll work.
At the Apple Store, they suggested this was water damage.
Well, you can see that there are water indicators that have turned red, so that's why they got that idea, and they're by the battery. So this is a water indicator, and these turn red when they see liquid. However, the thing here is that these not only turn red when they see liquid, they also turn red anytime there's humidity. So if you have this in a very humid room, all of these sensors will turn even if you've never spilled liquid on the machine. All right, so let's plug this back in and hope for the best. All right, as you can see, we've got an Apple and we have a light.
So it fixed.
Yeah, now...
That took you like 1.5 minutes?
Maybe.
So if I walked in off the street with this problem, what would you charge for the repair you just did?
If somebody wanted me to just bend the pin back, I wouldn't charge them for that. I would say, I'm going to rework your original cable. That may not last long term, but here, it's free. If they wanted us to replace the cable, depending on the model, anywhere from $75 to $150, depending on the difficulty of opening that model. But something like this, we wouldn't charge for it. And 99% of the time, just bending the pin back, it'll allow it to last until the end of the life of the computer.
We asked Apple to respond to this incident.
It's going to cost more than $1,000.
To fix it entirely will cost more than $1,000?
Yeah.
And to the widespread allegations of similar corporate behavior. They declined to provide a spokesman, but issued a statement claiming their customers are best served by Apple's certified experts using genuine parts. They denied systematically overestimating repair costs.
How often do people show up here with the Apple Store telling them it can't be fixed or it's too expensive to fix?
Somewhere between 10 and 30 times a day.
No kidding.
Yeah.
In San Luis Obispo, California, iFixit is probably the most successful third-party repair business in North America. The business tests cell phones and computers, diagnoses problems that regularly occur, and develops the tools and techniques to repair them. They sell the tools and repair manuals over the internet. iFixit has 125 employees and makes $21 million a year. The business is owned by Kyle Wiens, who is also a leading spokesman for the national Right to Repair movement.
It used to be that if you bought something, you'd be able to get it fixed when you needed to. And over time, we've lost that ability, whether it's a vacuum or a television or a laptop. It's increasingly more challenging to get access to the information that you need, or for local shops to get the parts. So right to repair is a movement and a set of legislation that would restore that ability to fix your own stuff.
How does Apple fit into that question?
Apple's perspective is that they want complete control over the device from the moment that you buy it all the way through the end of life. And right to repair takes some of that control away from them and puts it in the hands of the owner. And that's where, for a manufacturer to say, we're making a product and we're putting it out in the world and we're going to control every aspect of what happens after the fact is complete lunacy.
We asked Kyle Wiens to show us some of the tricks Apple uses to foil easy repairs, starting with non-standard screws.
So this is the pentalobe screw. It's on the bottom of the MacBook Pro, and it's these little 5 points. You can see it's not like any screw that you've seen before. And it turns out that Apple invented their own screw. It's purely they want to make the devices harder for normal people to open with the tools that they already have laying around.
Mm-hmm. Then Apple started gluing in batteries.
This is an iPhone 8, and this is the battery, and it's glued in, and that's unfortunate. It doesn't need to be glued in. Batteries didn't used to be glued in.
Was it one of those kind of pull and release
Yeah,
tabs?
it's 3M calls them command adhesives.
Right.
Okay. There, and it broke. And so there's your home button.
On some Apple phones, the home button would have to be replaced if the screen cracked.
And I can take the home button out.
It was a cheap and easy repair, but then Apple reprogrammed the operating system to detect non-authorized home buttons, and the phone would suddenly stop working.
Yeah, it would be like if you're driving your car and maybe you changed out the tires and you had aftermarket tires, and then all of a sudden Tesla pushes out a software update and your car stops driving because of those aftermarket tires. This stems from a mentality that they're the center of the universe and nobody else is doing anything with their products.
Apple insists that its products are best serviced by its own staff and clearly sees unauthorized third-party repair businesses as the enemy. Louis Rossmann and iFixit have received legal threats from the company when they publish schematics or repair manual information.
I would be happy with a rollback on the intellectual property law and the immigrations and customs enforcement law that allow people to be either thrown in jail or prosecuted for importing parts and for showing a schematic.
Because Apple writes the manual, they own the copyright to it. And so if you post that manual online, they'll send you a legal takedown threat saying that's our copyrighted material. If you don't take it down, we'll sue you for up to $150,000 in damages per incident. And those legal threats have really put a damper on repair information online.
The tide may be turning against Apple on the right to repair issue.
I just did a video of myself fixing a phone that DriveSavers couldn't fix.
This is the New York State Legislature, where Louis Rossmann and the Right to Repair movement have set up a repair cafe to put on a show for politicians.
Which one of these, 1, 2, or 3, do you think is covering up the battery connection? Probably this one. Probably that one.
So far this year, 17 U.S. states have introduced right to repair legislation that would force Apple and other companies to provide repair manuals and spare parts to third-party repair businesses.
I'd like Apple to change by acknowledging that if they're not willing to do certain jobs, maybe somebody else would. And to just, I'm not even asking them to extend an olive branch. I'm just asking them to, stop extending the knife.
What happens when the first state actually passes one of these proposed legislation?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, is the moment that one state passes things, the dam is going to burst. So if Ontario decided we're going to pass right to repair legislation, that could actually pass right to repair for the world, because manufacturers aren't going to provide products differently to people in one jurisdiction. They want to simplify their operations.
The right to repair movement has put a spotlight on some of Apple's predatory business practices.
I mean, that cost is very close to the cost of buying a new computer.
And many Apple customers are starting to wonder whether the company really has their best interest at heart.
Terrence McKenna's documentary continues after the break. When we come back...
So I got linked to this video, why Apple repairs are so expensive. So I figured I would watch it and give you some of my thoughts on it. Let's see what it is the guy has to say.
Explained, and today we're going to explore...
Oh, wait a second. Let me just turn off my audio while I'm listening to this. Let's see if there's an easy way for me to do that. Is there a button I can hit? With my laptop, I used to be able to just hit a mute button and it would just automatically mute. I suppose I don't have that anymore. I'll just hit the button in Open Broadcaster and stop being a lazy bastard.
Hey guys.
All right, let's take a look. And
Hey guys, it's Greg with Apple Explained, and today we're going to explore why Apple's repairs are so expensive. Because
Hi, today we're going to be covering the story of Henrik Husby, who was sued in Norway by Apple for the crime of repairing broken iPhone screens. I want to break this down so that even if you're not in the repair business or you don't own an iPhone, you can understand why what Apple is doing is completely reprehensible and deserving of you no longer spending your money with them if you care at all about ownership of your products. Now, the first thing we should get over here are the 3 points I'd like to cover. I'd like to cover the difference between counterfeit screens and refurbished screens, counterfeit parts versus refurbished parts. The second thing I'd like to cover is the difference between first-party repair and third-party repair. The third thing I'd like to cover is the difference between repair existing without government interference and repair existing with government interference, because the argument on the other side of the line from my conservative or libertarian
I'm doing
friends
well, Rusty.
is
How
that
are you?
government shouldn't be involved in repair. So I'd like to give you a reason why, if you are a conservative, small government, or libertarian, why it is that something like this should bother you. So, he was sued for using counterfeit screens. That's what Apple stated. And what Apple said is they would like for him to destroy all of his inventory and also pay them thousands and thousands of dollars to settle. Since he refused to pay thousands of dollars and destroy his inventory, because that would be bad for business, Apple decided to sue him for the crime of using these screens to fix phones.
You're fuming.
The
What are you
first thing we
fuming
need to
about?
go over
What's
is
wrong?
the difference between counterfeit and refurbished. Counterfeiting is when I take this Amscope microscope over here, I cross out Amscope, I write Vision Engineering, and I put on my website that this is a Vision Engineering Mantis microscope, and people buy it and they actually get an Amscope. That is counterfeiting. Refurbishing is when I take an Amscope microscope that has a broken zoom knob, and then I take that microscope that has the broken zoom knob, and I replace the zoom knob, and then I sell it on my site at
I'm playing Getting Over It, and I can't get over the hut. Yeah, I try to avoid those games as much as I can.
as a repaired Amscope microscope. There is a clear difference between refurbishing and counterfeiting. If you take the transmission out of a Toyota car and you rebuild that transmission so the car can work again, that car does not have a counterfeit transmission. It has a rebuilt, repaired transmission. If we're talking about the brakes on a bike, if you have a Pacific Union bike and you replace the brakes, that bike is not counterfeited, it is repaired. Now, what is commonly done with these iPhones is that the screen, when you drop it, the glass on the front, the part that you touch, breaks. However, the part that creates the picture is still good. So what a lot of repair shops will do in order to pass savings on to their customer is they will have the screens refurbished in China. They will send the bad screens to China, the ones that have a good LCD screen, good image, bad touchscreen, and they'll have these individuals in China replace the front glass layer, therefore refurbishing the original screen so that they now have a screen to offer their client that works, that's great quality because it's the original LCD screen, and all is great. However, the problem here is that Apple is claiming that that part is now a counterfeit part, not a repaired part, because it has an Apple logo on it. So that part has an Apple logo on the LCD screen's flex cable. And because it has an Apple logo, they'll say, you're importing something with an Apple logo. Well, you're importing our stuff, and that's counterfeit because you had somebody else fix it. So here we're really getting into a dangerous argument where by fixing something is now counterfeiting. So if what this individual was doing was importing screens from, Joe Schlub's screen company and saying that they were actually Apple screens, there we could have an argument. There we could say that what's going on is counterfeiting. If I claim that I'm giving you an LG screen, but I actually give you an AU Optronics screen, there we can have an argument about counterfeiting. But the part itself is not counterfeit because it's the original. He sent the original screen to China to be fixed. They fixed it and they sent it back to him. refurbishing is not counterfeiting. And if we allow this case to continue, then we get into this really scary gray area where, again, if your mechanic decides to rebuild a transmission, is he now going to be sued for counterfeiting? This is dangerous. And as I mentioned in my 2015 Right to Repair video, if you watch that, one of the points that Apple made to the lobbyists is that when I do motherboard repair on a MacBook, as you've seen me do many times, that I'm converting the Mac to a PC, and then I'm representing it as a Mac to my customer, which is misrepresentation and fraud. I'm not kidding. This is what they said. Promise. Here, look, not crossing my fingers or anything. So what they said is that when I run a wire from point A to point B to fix a broken trace on a MacBook motherboard, what I am doing is I am converting the Mac into a PC. It's no longer a Mac. And then when I give that Mac back to my customer, I'm misrepresenting it as a Mac when it's actually a PC. This is what they tell lawmakers. This is what they tell state senators. A lot of these state senators, they're over 50, they're over 60. They don't really get technology. Watch the Mark Zuckerberg Facebook hearing. They don't understand it. So if we don't talk to them, they will actually believe the lobbyists at Apple. And they are willing to push and try and see what they can get away with. And what this verdict here shows is that people in Norway, in their legal system, understand the difference between refurbishing and counterfeiting because they actually have a brain. So thumbs up to the legal system in Norway for realizing that Apple was trying to pull a fast one. And if we let them pull that fast one, they will time and time again. The second point to bring up is the difference between first-party repair and third-party repair. If he was having screens refurbished and he was a first-party authorized by Apple repair center, we could make an argument that that was wrong. Because if he was an Apple authorized repair center, that would mean that he had a contractual obligation with Apple to only use screens that he purchased from Apple. And that by offering these refurbished screens to his customers, or these whatever screens that he was buying from China to his customers, that he was skirting his contractual obligations and he was not using parts from the vendor he was supposed to as per their agreement. That would be wrong. If you are a service provider listed on Apple.com and it shows on Apple.com that they will use parts that they got from Apple in Cupertino from this specific vendor and you use a different vendor, hey, okay, there's a break in the contract there and I understand why he got in trouble. He's not a first-party repair center. He is a third-party, unauthorized repair center that makes it very clear that he has no affiliation with Apple. Because he makes it clear that he has no affiliation with Apple, there should be no problem with him using whatever parts he wants. If he wants to use original parts, which you can't buy, by the way, fine. If he wants to use refurbished original, fine. If he wants to use knockoffs, fine. If he wants to put a banana like the one from Jerry Rig Everything's April Fool's video into the phone and use that as a screen, then hey, he should be allowed to install a banana in the phone where the screen was, so long as the customers agree to it. He has no contractual obligation with Apple. There's no reason for there to be any fuss because he never once advertised that he is affiliated with Apple or that he is following Apple's standards for repair of any kind. Third-party repair centers, third-party businesses, do-it-yourselfers have the right to repair their devices as they wish, so long as they're not harming anybody. Third point here is that a lot of conservatives and libertarians are typically not on the right to repair side. And hey, I understand what you're saying. You don't want to deal with the nanny state. You don't want government getting their hands into everything. You want the free market to do what the free market does and sort things out. Well, how does this free market? I have a lot of conservative and libertarian viewers who think, hey, right to repair is a pile of junk. Why is it that you believe that you can use the government to compel people to do something? And listen, I hear what you're saying, but check this out. The government is saying that a free market transaction between a refurbisher in China and a domestic repair shop in Norway cannot occur. Apple is using the power of the state to dictate how someone repairs their own product. Here, we have a free market transaction between the refurbisher in China and the repair shop in Norway, and we have a second free market transaction, which is totally voluntary, between the customer and the repair shop. Those voluntary free market transactions are being interfered with by Apple, who is asking the nanny state to do their dirty work for them. So if you come at this from a conservative libertarian stance, saying, I don't want the government involved, well, hey, neither do I, and right to repair would not be something that got as far as it did if it wasn't for the fact that Apple is very clearly abusing their government privileges, as is to keep independent repair from going on. They are lobbying to state senators saying things like, I'm converting Macs to PCs by running a jumper wire for your backlight circuit. It's just mind-blowingly dumb and manipulative what it is they've been allowed to get away with. And the thing is, what they're doing here is they're trying to keep you from repairing your own products. If you even just watch something like the video that Linus released today, which I think is excellent, great quality, straight to the point, they're keeping people that have 5 million subscribers, a good amount of money, that would do lots of business with Apple. They do a lot of video editing. It seems like they would have a lot of money to spend with Apple. It seems like their viewers, that 5 million viewers, have a lot of money to spend with Apple. And even Linus, they just said, we're not going to fix it. He brings them an iMac with a broken screen and says, listen, mea culpa, I messed up. I'm sorry. Here it is. How much time? How much money? Here's a blank check. Fix my iMac. And they said, that's it. They can't fix it for any amount of money. If Linus put $2,000 in the table, Apple will not fix his iMac. And not only will they not provide repairs a lot of the time, but they are doing everything they can to ensure that independent service centers are sued, threatened, fined, and messed with to ensure that we are not able to service you when you have a problem with your product. And I think that's wrong. And we have to draw a line in the sand at some point and just say, this is not acceptable. I am not going to spend money with you until you decide to stop doing this. And I am encouraging my customer base of people that exclusively utilize Apple products, that provide me and my employees with a living, to stop spending money on Apple products, because this is unfair. They're screwing you and they're screwing other people. Now, here's my suggestion to you. If they're coming to you and saying, hey, we're going to sue you and shut down your business and fine you terribly, unless you pay this nice settlement, don't go for it. Fight back. Because if you don't fight back, this is going to continue, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse until the point where we cannot repair our own products, to where refurbishing is now counterfeiting, and to where you're no longer in business. I've been audited and sued many times, and because of that, I have been put in touch with some great people who are great attorneys. These are great litigators that just do nothing every day but wake up and decide, we want to win. How can we win? What bully can we fight today? Just because that's how they get their kicks. And I would like nothing more than to hire these types of individuals to help defend people like myself and others against the bullies and crooks over at Apple Inc. I'm tired of seeing them get away with this just because people have this idea that, oh, they're a $400 billion company. Yeah, they have $400 billion, but we have something even better, which is the truth and being correct. And while Apple may have $400 billion, hey, you got a lot to lose. You got a lot more to lose than me. So you've got quite a bit more to worry about if you screw up. I believe that the world is a good place. And I believe that telling the truth and doing the right thing in a world that is a good place will result in a positive outcome. Even if you don't have $400 billion. I have no problem putting my money and my business on the line if it comes to it. I dare you. Try and sue me. 2 years ago, I got a call from one of their law firms asking me to take down a video that I had up because it had the picture of a schematic that showed where the fuse was in a machine. And I said, okay, fine, I'll take it down. File a DMCA claim. Hey, if you're going to be the bitch, be the whole bitch. Don't ask me in private to take it down. Send me a DMCA claim. Show the entire world that you don't want them knowing where a fuse is in their own product that you refuse to repair after they paid $1,200 for it. And they didn't do it because they know that that is not a fight they will win. We are correct and we have the truth on our side. We're going to win the culture war and we're going to win the battle in court. We are going to win. Don't make no mistake. This is war, and it is a war I fully intend to win. And it's a war that we're making little inches and incremental steps on every single day. Just a few years ago, people thought that component level repair was impossible. My customers would go to an Apple store, come here, and they'd say, well, the guy at the Genius Bar told me that if anybody says they can do component level repair, that's a scam. And now there are thousands of people around the world that watch these videos every single day that can see our business's rating, they can see what we do live, and they can see that it works, and they understand that it's not a scam. There are thousands of people every single day watching my videos, reading the forum, checking out the guide that I released over 100 pages that shows you how to do what we do. We are demystifying repair at an accelerating and exponential rate every single day, and that's only going to continue as more channels open and more people get involved. We're letting more people into the independent repair community. We're taking more broken devices and making them work again than ever before, and above all, more people are catching on to Apple's BS. People are realizing the iPhone 6 Plus with the Touch IC and the iPhone 7 with the rebooting loops and the MacBook with the keyboards that randomly stop working and the 2015 12 inches that die because of the U4700 chip and the graphics chip issues caused because of the crappy way you solder them and the little piece of rubber you put on it and call it a repair. They're finding out that you are full of shit. And it's going to continue occurring on an accelerating basis. I dare you, continue to sue us, continue to fine us, continue to mess with us, because we are going to win. And I will extend my helping hand to those individuals who have businesses, who are getting legal threats from Apple like this, who are unable to defend themselves because they are unfortunately not at that financial place where they can afford an attorney. Contact me, reach out to me. I will help you. I will put you in touch with people who are willing to help you. I will put you in touch with attorneys and litigators that know what they're doing for you the same way they knew what they were doing for me. We are a repair community, and we will help you out. We will stand up to the bully, and we will win. We will not live in a world where refurbishing is considered counterfeiting. And we will not live in a world where people like Linus with 5 million subscribers, lots of money, cannot get a screen fixed for any amount of money from the manufacturer after a break less than 1 year in. Here's for Apple.
All right, chat. I'm going to go take a nap and I'm going to get back on and we're going to plow through some more updates. So I will catch